Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. We're so excited to have you here again. Today we're diving into a truly touching and inspiring story, the journey of a single mother named Tieu Ca and a successful CEO named Hmong. Now, this isn't just your typical love story. It's a story full of twists, turns, challenges, and emotional ups and downs, from uncertain beginnings to moments of heartbreak, and finally to a love that blossoms into something beautiful and lasting. This is the kind of journey that reminds us all how love can be both difficult and deeply rewarding. Tieu Ca, a strong and resilient single mom, has been navigating life on her own terms. She's focused on raising her child, building her life piece by piece, when fate suddenly brings her into the world of Hmong, a man who's not only successful, but also carrying his own emotional baggage. At first, their lives couldn't be more different, but something unexpected begins to unfold. As they face struggles together, deal with misunderstandings, and slowly learn to trust again, we witness how love grows not from perfection, but from patience, forgiveness, and genuine connection. In today's episode, we're going to explore their journey in depth, the highs, the lows, the tender moments, and everything in between. Whether you're here for romance, inspiration, or just a really good story, you won't want to miss this one. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join me as we step into the world of Tieu Ca and CEO Hmong, a story that proves that even when life throws us curveballs, love has a way of finding us in the most unexpected places. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's get into it. They came from two completely different worlds. On one side was Hmong, a confident, successful CEO, born into a stable and privileged life. He had everything anyone could ask for: status, wealth, and a clear path ahead of him. On the other side was Tieu Ca, a strong, independent single mother fighting her way through life. Her days were marked by hardship, sacrifice, and pain. She carried the weight of her past while doing everything she could to raise her child alone. There was no safety net, no luxury, only determination and grit. By all logic, their paths should have never crossed. Their realities were Hmong, who had been surrounded by polished business deals and superficial relationships, found something raw and real in Tieu Ca. Her resilience, her quiet strength, and the love she poured into her child struck a chord in him. For the first time, he saw beyond titles and appearances. He saw someone who had endured storms and kept walking. And Tieu Ca, despite all the walls she had built to protect herself, couldn't ignore the sincerity in Hmong's actions. He didn't pity her. He didn't treat her like she was broken. Instead, he stood by her side not to rescue her, but to walk with her, to understand her, to learn her world. What began as unexpected kindness slowly turned into something deeper. A bond rooted in empathy, shared vulnerability, and trust. It was a connection neither of them saw coming, and yet it felt like it had always been meant to be. This wasn't a love story born from convenience or timing. It was forged through contrast, through their differences. Their opposite realities became the very thing that brought balance. Where one was strong, the other needed support. Where one had struggled, the other offered light. Together, they proved that love doesn't always follow logic. It doesn't care about background, status, or history. Sometimes, love finds us when we least expect it in the spaces between two completely different lives, and that's what makes their story so powerful. Because in a world that often keeps people in separate lanes, Tieu Ca and Hmong remind us that real connection can break through any barrier, that sometimes love isn't something you plan for. It's something you surrender to, just too far apart. But sometimes the universe has its own mysterious ways of bringing people together. It all started with a few chance encounters, small, seemingly insignificant moments that kept pulling them into each other's lives. A helping hand here, a kind word there. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. It was as if an invisible thread was drawing them closer, one moment at a time. As fate would have it, their encounters became more and more frequent moments that once seemed like coincidences slowly began to feel like something more. A connection, a bond, perhaps even destiny. During some of the darkest times in Tieu Ca's life, when she was forced to face unimaginable pain, including the betrayal of her husband, there was one person who never turned away. Hungarian. He wasn't just a bystander, he was there present, supportive, unwavering. When she felt like her world was falling apart, he stood by her side, helping her pick up the pieces. He didn't offer pity, he offered presence, strength, and most importantly, belief in her worth, and in her future. From the outside, Hung appeared to be the man who had it all. A successful career, financial stability, and the kind of life many only dream of. But few knew the truth behind his polished exterior. As a child, Hung had known struggle, real, raw hardship. He'd been through pain, through loneliness, through poverty. He had to fight his way up, just like Tieu Ca was doing now. And maybe that's what drew him to her in the first place. Maybe that's why, from the very beginning, he felt a deep sense of empathy toward her. She reminded him of where he came from. Her resilience mirrored his own, but more than that, he admired her. Her simplicity, her honesty, the quiet courage she carried even when the world felt unbearably heavy. From their earliest meetings, Hung had been quietly moved by her. She didn't know it, but his heart had already begun to open. Still, he kept his distance, knowing she was still tied to her past. But when he finally learned that her relationship with her ex-husband was truly over, something shifted. He knew it was time, no more holding back. He gathered every ounce of courage he had and made the decision to show her how deeply he cared. He didn't come with grand gestures or fancy words. He simply came with honesty, with real intentions, and with a heart that had already fallen for a woman who had no idea how extraordinary she truly was. Hung wasn't chasing a fantasy. He was drawn to something real, a love grounded in understanding, respect, and shared strength. And so, a new chapter quietly began. One built not on perfection, but on healing. One shaped by past wounds, but nurtured by mutual care. A story that was never rushed, but always meant to be. After everything Hung had done for her, the support, the kindness, the unwavering presence, something within Tieu Ca began to shift. Slowly but surely, she started to let go of the pain that had once consumed her. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the long, lonely nights of shouldering everything on her own. They began to fade into the past. For the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to feel something she thought she'd lost, the warmth of being loved. She didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders anymore. Hung was there not to take over, but to walk beside her, to share the load, to show her that love didn't have to mean sacrifice without support. And amid the rhythm of everyday life between work, family, and quiet moments in between, their love blossomed. It wasn't rushed or forced. It grew naturally, day by day, built on respect, shared values, and a deep emotional bond. But love, as beautiful as it is, often comes with its own set of challenges. In their case, it was the skepticism of Hng's family. Coming from a traditional background, his parents had their doubts. Could someone from such a difficult past truly be part of their son's future? But Hng and Tieu Ca didn't let those doubts break them. Instead, they showed, not just told, what love could look like when it's rooted in sincerity. With quiet resilience, they proved that their relationship was real, not a passing phase, not a fantasy, but something deeply grounded in truth. And over time, even the toughest hearts softened. Hng's parents came to see the woman behind the hardship. They saw her strength, her humility, and most of all, the light she brought into their son's life. Their resistance gave way to acceptance, and acceptance turned into genuine affection. But what made Tieu Ca truly special wasn't just her ability to win hearts, it was the way she carried herself after. She never let comfort turn into arrogance. She never used love as leverage. She never felt entitled to what she had because she remembered where she came from. She remembered the nights she cried alone, the days she didn't think she'd survive. And so she treasured every smile, every warm meal shared, every embrace like it was a gift, because to her, it was. She knew love was not a guarantee. It wasn't something owed, it was something rare. And having found it, she was determined to protect it, to nurture it. She never stopped being grateful, not for a single day. Tieu Ca didn't just find happiness. She learned how to hold on to it, how to grow with it, how to be the kind of partner who gives as much as she receives. And that's what made their story not just a romance, but a journey of healing, growth, and quiet triumph. A story of how love, when rooted in resilience and respect, can bloom even from the darkest places and turn into something truly beautiful. And in the end, after all the trials, all the heartache, and every challenge life threw their way, they made it. Against the odds, Tieu Ca and Hng found their way to each other and built the kind of love most people only dream of. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. It was earned. Their story, once marked by struggle and uncertainty, slowly transformed into something whole, something complete. They now share a quiet, beautiful life together. A life filled with simple joys, laughter around the dinner table, peaceful mornings with warm coffee, bedtime stories told to little Han, and dreams whispered about the baby on the way. Their love became more than just a bond between two people, it became the foundation of a family, a home filled with warmth, hope, and second chances. What once felt impossible was now their reality. A love story that weathered every storm and emerged stronger, fuller, and more meaningful than they ever could have imagined. And now, as they prepare to welcome a new life into the world, they do so with hearts full of gratitude, not just for what they have, but for everything they went through to get here. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories aren't the ones that start easily, but the ones that never gave up.
Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng đã quay trở lại. Hôm nay thời tiết có phần oi bức hơn thường lệ. Mùa hè ở đất nước tôi đang vào thời cao điểm với những đợt nắng gắt như muốn thiêu đốt mọi thứ. Nóng nóng khiến ai cũng cảm thấy mệt mỏi và Tieu Ca cũng không ngoại lệ. Nhưng với cô, sự mệt mỏi ấy dường như tăng lên gấp bội, bởi cô đang ở những tháng cuối của thai kỳ. Liệu hôm nay có điều gì bất ngờ xảy ra? Hãy cùng tôi theo dõi. Sau một cơn mưa rào bất chợt, thứ đặc sản vào mùa hè, trời bắt đầu hừng nắng, mang theo cái nóng hầm hập khắp không gian. Hôm nay Tieu Ca gửi bé Han ở nhà bà ngoại để một mình lên núi hái sau bí đem về bán. Bụng đã lớn, cơ thể nặng nề, nhưng cô vẫn kiên cường trèo lên lưng chừng quả đồi, chọn những ngọn rau bí tươi ngon nhất. Những vết vệt mồ hôi lấm tấm trên trán không làm cô chùn bước. Với cô, mỗi bó rau là thêm một phần chi phí sinh hoạt lo lắng cho cô và con gái. Sau gần cả buổi sáng, Tieu Ca cũng hái được một gùi đầy cùng thêm một ôm rau nữa. Đi xuống đến chân đồi, cô ngồi nghỉ ngơi dưới tán cây mát rượi, tranh thủ buộc sau thành từng bó gọn gàng, chuẩn bị đi giao cho các quầy rau quen thuộc dưới chợ.